All right, greetings, folks. This is Gabe Donnelly here. Sunday, March 24th, 2024. Should be mentioned. I'm in Washington D.C. All the videos I've made up to this point have been made here in Washington D.C. Just happens to be where I'm at. So the story of how I got here or am here at is sort of chronicled in the first, in the first, 4 videos, in particular, number 2 and number 3. This is episode 5. So the last episode I had, episode 4, was a really good one, just in terms of kind of the format I think I want to use, and it's just best for listeners and all that, which is about 20 to 30 minutes per episode. The second and the third ones were really good content and had a lot of information in there, but they were an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes, and I think they're really good, and they're mandatory to sort of listen to and to understand the scope of the situation. But I, just for the listener's sake, I know people have lives and people are parents. They have, parenting to do and busy schedules to live up to, obligations to live up to. And so things like this are going to take time. I'm going to do my best here to keep it to, each episode to 30 minutes or less. And then, of course, that will mean there are more episodes. It's a really, gigantic problem that's not going away. And so it takes a lot of, I'm just one person, so it takes a lot of me yammering on about everything to kind of to bring it all home, so to speak. Just a quick recap here. We're talking about a life insurance fraud / scam orchestrated by my mother, Lydia, who's been heavy into insurance fraud in the last, take your pick, XYZ years. And now we're up to life insurance fraud, which is really, really horrifying. And it's, my mother is partnered with, this guy Tommy and this guy Jonas, and they're heavily connected, and those people are again, I cover this pretty much at length in 1 and 2 and 3, so that's what we're talking about here. And it's in this episode, I want to go over a few different things. Number 1, again, as always, let's talk about the contact info. This is my contact info. This is not that easy to do. Can't really flip the... Oops, sorry. All right, my contact info. Gabriel Donnelly, cell phone, 541-556... Brutal, I know. 1401 or 541-228-8082. Either one is fine. YouTube info is really important. Let's see, I spelled channel wrong. I'm not a terrible speller typically. So my YouTube information is at Gabe Donnelly 45. Gabe Donnelly, GABE DONNELLY 45. So whether it's the handle or the channel, that's what you're looking for. And then email is kobayashilives@gmail.com. So there's that. Okay, so along the way I've been starting to name names, and I've got a lot of them actually already. 7 names here. We've got Lydia Donnelly, Derek Long, Ira and Jody Herb, Curtis Dvorak, Alicia at Roseburg Honda, and then Tommy O and Jonas Rue. I've got just a line drawn from Lydia Donnelly to Tommy and Jonas. Is sort of that's the connection that's making it all happen. So there's a quick recap on that. It's a very quick recap. if you want to hear the substance and the how we know it to be true, then you've got to just go into episode 1, 2, 3, and yada yada yada. And so, all right, now with that out of the way, I briefly spoke about kind of like what each individual person can do, and like a problem like this is so overwhelming and unusual, and it involves, let's be frank, it involves murdering somebody for money. It's like, whoa, what do I even do? And just wanted to acknowledge that, yeah, it's a difficult questions to face and to to have to sort of acknowledge, and there are no quick solutions, instant gratifications, or like just obvious routes to, I'll just do XYZ, and then that will solve the problem for Gabe or for this, to however you feel about it, right? And hopefully some of the stuff I talk about, I would hope you care about me or anybody going through something like this. But if it's something, if you just feel like, wow, I don't want to do nothing, or I want to be a part of a solution, I don't want this kind of stuff happening to any person or in the world, or there are so many ways you can contribute. Sorry, one thing I should say is I don't need money. It's an unusual YouTube situation, I guess. I don't need money or attention per se, for any other reason but getting rid of this problem and making sure it doesn't, doing everything we can, I guess, to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else ever again, as unrealistic as that may be. I don't know, but just doing our part, it would be, I think, really meaningful. But just checking in with me about this kind of stuff, like, hey, I've had a couple of people say, hey, I've started watching this, or I'm blah blah, I'm a third of the way through episode 2 or 3 or whatever, and just sort of working it into their schedule. Like, even that is really, that's valuable, to know that you put this stuff out there and you're not sure which people are getting it, sort of checking in on it, understanding the importance of it, sort of tackling the content of it. Any sort of feedback on that in itself is really valuable. And then there are so many other ways to contribute. It's like, I haven't sent this out on my YouTube or on my Facebook feed quite yet. I will soon. But I think any number of scenarios where you're aware of the situation and then you talk to somebody even other than me, and then this subject comes up. Are you aware of A, B, C, and X, Y, Z? And maybe both of you are aware of it. Maybe one person, though, is aware of it and the other person isn't. And then here's another opportunity to be like incomprehensibly valuable. If you're just sort of, familiar with the situation peripherally, or an outline of how ugly the situation is, and just to talk to another person, like, yeah, wow, this is a really scary situation. It's happening to Gabe, and they're basically really isolating him in such a way that his mother and the people that she's connected with are trying to hasten his demise in such a way that his mother would get a massive payout for it, and then the people that she's connected to, the deal has been worked out with something to do with the ranch, which is again, Winter Springs Ranch, which my mom and dad bought in 1989. It's a 1,000-acre forested property overlooking the Rogue River. It has vacation rentals on it. There's been millions of dollars put into it over 35 years, for roads and planting trees and building stuff. So it's an immensely valuable property. This is the connection that really has to hit home with people about. It's not just my mother, posturing in such a way to get another nefarious, massive payout by having somebody murdered. That's pretty serious, obviously, right? But it's not. The reason why it's so appealing to organizations or slash people, you know, ruthless, unscrupulous characters that have lots of reach and already have whatever, big money, big connections, and that kind of thing, prone to violence, is simply the ranch is an enormously valuable property. Whatever value you want to put on it, 10 million, 15 million, and that's without even knowing like what another, whatever, an organization or a group of people may have plans for. I don't even know, okay? So that's a very serious thing. That is sort of the rudimentary outline of what's going on here. You know, the reason, yeah, you can kind of see it. No, I'm not involved with these people. No, I haven't done anything, you know, I'm not, I don't have any kind of criminal record, or I'm not involved in anything nefarious. I'm just not, and I haven't been ever. So it's not a situation where like, oh, Gabe got himself into trouble and is just like asking for help or something like that. It's not like that at all. I don't have a criminal record. It's like, I've got the perfect resume, one would think, to, you know, I guess for credibility. I don't have a criminal record. I don't have, I don't carry weapons or threaten people. You know, I don't do drugs. I don't even smoke marijuana or drink alcohol. Like, seriously, like that's a pretty, I don't have a mental illness. It's like, bam, 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 bam. Like, what else would you want to have, for a resume? And so, you know, by asking, yeah, all of these facts are just important for people to know, listening to this, is that, yeah, you can just contribute by being aware of the situation or asking questions or just, you know, feedback to me, but also in your daily, weekly, whatever relationships, or, you know, it's bound to come up for someone, you know, the situation going on here. And I don't know what the solution is, right? It's clearly a big enough and rare enough problem that it isn't, you know, solved at the local level of law enforcement, or is it the sort of like regional, like county level? Is it a state trooper, you know, state police type of thing? Maybe. It's a whole nother subject we'll get into. I've done my due diligence. Disturbingly, I've done my due diligence on a lot of that stuff, so we'll get into that. Is it more of a national thing, involving, you know, like the FBI or something? The reason why that's actually quite credible is if you look at some of the videos that I made earlier, the connection of Tommy and Jonas, who, you know, worked for Macho Bet, and Macho Bet was, yeah, they ultimately were investigated by the FBI, I think, in the late 2000s, you know, for strong arm intimidation tactics. And, you know, there were indictments on that front. And so that's a pretty serious thing and a really important connection to keep in mind. So we know for a fact that Tommy and Jonas are working with my mother, which is like totally, that's a pretty big fact, because there's not any possible reason or way or relationship there that would be anything other than nefarious and, you know, having to do with insurance fraud and that kind of thing. So we know, it's not hypothetical. You know, Tommy's been upfront about that, like, oh, I'm working with your mom, when they were more confident about, you know, just subduing me, So yeah, that connection with the FBI apprehending Macho Bet is a big deal. It's also a really big deal, and I hate having to say this. I'm just going to tread real lightly on this. From a racial standpoint, you know, yeah, I grew up in Gold Beach, Oregon. Very little diversity there, if any. But I've always really enjoyed diversity. I'm not any sort of, yeah, I don't have any kind of, whatever, just animosity or have anything other than goodwill towards my fellow people, citizens, whatever. It doesn't matter what color they are and all that. That's the way I've always felt. So yeah, just wanted to say that. Even now, and I say even now because, folks, we're dealing with a situation here, and I'm trying to say this conservatively. It's at least 80% Hispanic of the people that are carrying out these things. I should have mentioned it, like in Las Vegas, every single person that was doing, when I was handcuffed and they were holding me down with a gun, like to my head, over and over and over again as I squirmed to like get out of that, every single one of those guys was Hispanic. That was one of the first times that I noticed how many there, how just sort of the, whatever you want to call it, the ethnic or racial background of it. And then ever since then, like the people that, I don't want to get too carried away. We're right at the 16-minute mark here. So that's worth saying because, see, the macho bat connection, that's a Hispanic thing. The people that were in charge there, and it was in Lima, Peru, they were Hispanic. And so although the, Tommy and Jonas are Korean, they're Asians, the connection between them and, whoever their partners or whatever you want to call that, would be overwhelmingly Hispanic. Sorry. I'm just saying. It's a massive thing to check out, to keep in mind here. Okay, so another really important point is, what does it look like? What does it look like? Like, what's the sort of worst case scenario here? Like, it would be easy, I think, for an average person to say, okay, well, this is a really terrible thing. It's happening to Gabe, and like, oh my God, what does he even do? But maybe in the back of their mind or some part of your mind, you're thinking, okay, yeah, it's really terrible. I hope that doesn't happen to Gabe. But, if it's a nice guy, Gabe, it's good, I like him. But, if Gabe were to die, the world keeps turning, and I don't really see anything like obvious or sort of any obvious threat to my life type thing. And we feel bad for the guy, but yeah, like at least the damage will be limited to Gabe dying miserably, as we found out at the end of episode 2 and episode 3. I also wouldn't, by the way, quick message here, I wouldn't blame anyone if they wanted to fast forward to the last 20 minutes of episode 2 and episode 3, but you don't want to miss the endings of those two, for sure. Last 20-25 minutes. Because I chronicle just how what I'm talking about here is not hypothetical. I don't have fears that something is going to happen. It already has happened. It's actually happened 4 times. And so far at this point, we've only chronicled 2 of those miserable attempts to have me murdered. And the detail I go into is, it's a lot. Pretty detailed. So, but yeah, getting back to what I was saying here, it would be a really limited take, though, to think, oh, the damage is limited to Gabe dying, and then that's that end of problem. So actually, it turns out to be at least 3 really scary problems, and that's one of them. Also, which if that happened, if I die or disappear literally before my mother dies, it's like 100%. It's like 100% that I was murdered. Okay, 100%. Like, folks, come on. But yeah, in that scenario, my mom would, as I've chronicled, would get a massive fraudulent, insurance payout, or at least, believes she does. So whatever it is, I don't know, like $1 million, a couple $1 million, I'm sure it's going to be, for this kind of effort that's been put out, I'm sure it's going to be those type of numbers. So that in itself is not a great thing. My mother succeeding at more insurance fraud in which she's not going to quit, folks. Okay. And this would be the most sort of the biggest victory of her insurance fraud career, a situation where this people shouldn't be blindsided by this, as I'm putting out videos here explaining the situation ahead of time. Yeah, and she's not quitting. Like, folks, really? And so in that scenario, I don't even know how she's going to pull it off. But so there's that situation, which is going to, I can promise you, lead to more and more of these types of situations happening. All right. In other words, my mom needs to be stopped on this front. She needed to be stopped a long time ago. But yeah. So there's that. But then there's the other side of it, the connection of the, the people that she's partnered with to carry this out ruthlessly. Tommy and Jonas, they're extraordinarily connected, and they already have tons of money and means to make these kind of things happen. Imagine those people just adding the ranch in Gold Beach, Winter Springs Ranch, to their portfolio, to their stable of, I don't know, like nefariously acquired properties. What would you even call it? Whatever you want to call it. Okay, that isn't good, right? And that doesn't even take into account the plans that they have for that property. And here's the third thing that I can tell you is a slam dunk. We already had a dress rehearsal for this at the end of 2021, I believe, when I was in Missouri with this creep Courtney. And so my mom thought for sure that I was going to be, like murdered by Courtney and company, because I was trapped in that situation. And so as a result, my mom started telling people, and I had blocked out my mom a long time ago, meaning at that point in 2021, blocked meaning I don't allow her to contact me, because it's just, she just does, when allowed to contact you, she just gives you this like stream of total bullshit of things you're not involved in, and then people can probably figure that out. But I learned from my cousin, maybe like a year later, sometime in 2022, I called my cousin Kristen on her birthday, and I wanted to tell her, I was just catching up about stuff. It's been a while, and she said something to me about, I was trying to, I've made a lot of progress in the collecting world, the sports card collecting world, and that's all I had worked on. Worked really hard on that to be kind of at the top of my, the profession on that. It's really a lot of hard work. So I was trying to tell her about that, and she said something like, "Oh, I thought you were involved in methamphetamine, something like lab or it's like unbelievable." Like a comment that she said under her breath, and I the moment she said it, I said, "What?" So, like tell me more. Like, what you heard? What? And I couldn't get her to extrapolate. It's my cousin, and one of the things I said to her, I said, like, basically, Kristen, no matter what you've heard, like, either way, it's an immediate phone call to me. Like, meaning, if it's a fabricated story and a lie, well, obviously that's an immediate phone call to me to ask me about it. And even if it's something that you are convinced of by my mother, or like, even if it was true, why wouldn't you call me and say, "Hey, Gabe, I heard that you were involved in like the methamphetamine trade, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. It doesn't sound like you. Is everything okay?" Like anything. So that was the clue I got, though, that demonstrated that, in a situation where I'm about, my mom thinks I'm going to die, or whatever her and her partner's plans are going to come to fruition, which is, leading to my expedited demise. Well, you can see what's going to happen. So there'll be a period of time where they'll know that I'm dead, but there'll be no official like missing persons report or investigation into my demise. And so that's the time that they'll use to, of course, create the fabricated life insurance policy with my mom's full forgery abilities that she is another major feature of my mother. Hate to say it, but that's the truth. And so however many months they're going to pay the premiums, whether it's 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, I don't know. And so, but the main thing is that these people that she's partnered with are going to use my name and sort of like the illusion that I'm still alive, as they're going to create some sort of, they're basically going to manufacture drugs, like whatever, like hard drugs, street drugs, methamphetamine, I'm guessing. I don't even know, right? But just the fact that came up is a huge clue to, I mean, like, can you imagine this? My mother, my biological mother is off telling members of my blood family that I'm involved in this, and they don't call me. They don't say anything to me, folks. And I had to find out about it that way. So that's pretty serious. If it's not already obvious, I'm just going to say it, especially as a single person, and people that are married or have been married for long enough, this may sort of fade what it's like to be a single person. But if somebody makes it their business to do something like that, like I mentioned, with my mom mentioning this to my cousin, if they do it in such a way that, see, you don't know, since you're not involved in whatever this rumor is and all that, you don't even know that you're supposed to deny it, of course, right? You don't even know it's happening. And so that's what it's like. That is just a very small sneak peek of what it's like to deal with my mother. You just don't know what she's off doing and telling other people about you as a pretense to what's coming next, so to speak. Hopefully that makes sense. And so that's why I have her blocked, right? That situation it does show us exactly, and so what happened was, before going out to, Missouri in 2021 and all that, there was some really scary incidences in Gold Beach at Pistol River, actually, where I was renting from Jeff and Sherry Kemp. And I had an armed home intruder come when I was at home twice. The same guy, okay? But during that time, they, whoever, my mom, Rob Cudmore and company, they put 3 tubs of hydrochloric acid and these hard chemicals on my lawn. And, I was jumping up and down screaming about just trying to get their attention. What the hell is this doing on my lawn? I didn't order this. That's a whole nother saga. But it shows you that they were preparing for some sort of, I guess it's congruent with what I'm saying about these people create. It's not just that they plan to, get the land from my mom in a deal. They plan to use my name or the illusion of me still being alive to manufacture hard illegal drugs and have a sort of, you have to understand how powerful that is, and have a sort of out in that it's going to be blamed on me, but they already know I'm already dead, so they're going to sort of trash my reputation, in the name of creating these drugs. I don't know for how long. I can't even say how exactly these plans are going to come together, or how many different variations they have, or contingency plans. But I know for a fact, folks, because I've lived my life the last few years, that that's what's happening, okay? And so it makes sense, because at a certain point, they have to come up with a reason for my death, right? And you can bet, okay, 100% we know it's not going to be, Gabe was murdered, a while back, and we just snuffed it out so we could profit from this life insurance scam. No, of course not. They're going to have to come up with a reason for my death that looks plausible, that looks like I'm the one who essentially am responsible for my own death in some sort of, irresponsible way, negligence, drugs. And so that's why it's really, really important, this narrative that my mom has of trying to connect me to drugs. And it's just like, yeah, it shouldn't even be allowed to happen. But a huge part of that, like pretty much like all of that, is obfuscating me from even knowing that she's out there saying these things about me, right? So that makes sense. And so hopefully people can start to understand how this all comes together. You have to think of not just what's happening now, right? But think about the situation if I did die, how my mother and these ruthless, partners are going to make it all like worth their while down the road. And that is, they have to have a way to explain, my death at some point that essentially blames me. I'm negligent, I'm irresponsible, I'm doing drugs, I'm God even knows what, right? But for the record, I'm not gonna, I don't do any drugs. I'd never in a million years like distribute drugs or like make drugs or anything like that. I've got a long history of talking about, wanting to be involved in things that don't involve hurting people, that don't involve drugs or extortion or identity theft or any of this, insurance fraud, you name it, like hurting people. It's like, no way. I'm big into, the collecting realm, the sports card, investment grade sports card realm. It's something I really taken to, for a lot of years. And even then, being a rafting guide is big to me. I'd love to do that again. So like I'd never in a million years be involved in any of this kind of stuff. So it's really, really important to understand that, to know about that, and just to think about this situation in that kind of manner, about thinking ahead as to how these people would be able to get away with that, and that's how they're able to do it. And also how, what would make it worth their while? Well, it's not just the property that they'd be getting. It would be the sort of right or the ability to manufacture hard drugs. That's a ton of money people are going to make on that. All right. So whatever, like what I was saying earlier, whatever money you or value you ascribe to the ranch, whether it's 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, I don't even know. Well, how much is it for them in the extremely remote part of the country, probably, in Curry County, to manufacture these drugs and then ship them out and sell them with the plan of it all, blaming me. And they'd be able to do that very easily because, as I said before, my mom has all my credentials, my original birth certificate, my social security card, my examples of my signature, addresses. They would have my phone, right? Everything that makes it look like me, right? That I am driving around and all that. And they would somehow, everything's really scary, but like what magnifies how terrifying it all is that eventually I don't know how they'd murder me, but there's, it could be really awful for me. It could be a situation where they keep me somewhere, and I don't know. I think, just sort of the end of the second video and end of the third video or episode really brings it home to just how ugly that these are not mercy killings they're executing. They don't care what kind of horror I go through. They're just about the results. And the people that are carrying out these things, these are not first timers. These are hardened criminals that have done these kind of things before. And I haven't even gotten to the part where, basically the third and the fourth attempts, after that absolutely horrifying thing that happened in the Jacksonville hotel room. That was the second time, but yeah. Anyways, that's 35 minutes here on that. This has been episode 5, and it's just more of a recap about what people can do, how they can contribute, just, talking about the situation, and then just thinking about things in terms of the ultimate damage here. The worst case scenario kind of damage isn't just me dying and that's it. It's sort of prolifically promoting this kind of thing happening in the future. It's also the people responsible for this, getting the ranch, something that also my father bought. And so even though he's been gone 25 years, you can see how, even after somebody's dead, like, they're on the hook for things happening down the line. Like if the thing that he, put his, money and dreams into ends up in the hands of these people, I mean, that's a pretty big deal too. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I'm the only person that stands in the way of every single one of these things happening. So that's a burden. It's real scary for me. And I hope that people take it seriously and reach out to me and we'll take it from there.